The diplomatic vessel, Starbound Unity, floated quietly in the space between two star systems. Inside the main meeting room, Ambassador Kim Mina sat at a long white table. Her black hair was pulled back neatly, and she wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. Across from her sat three large alien creatures called the WarHFY. The WarHFY looked like giant lizards that walked on two legs. Their skin was dark green and covered in small scales that caught the light from the room's panels. Each one had 4 arms ending in sharp claws, and their eyes were yellow with thin black lines down the middle. When they opened their mouths, rows of pointed teeth showed clearly. Commander Thexmar was the largest of the 3 aliens. He sat in the middle chair, his 4 hands resting on the table. His voice was deep and rough when he spoke. The other 2 WarHFY stayed quiet, watching everything with their cold yellow eyes. This meeting was supposed to be about trade and peace between humans and the WarHFY Empire. For over 300 years, the WarHFY had controlled this part of space. They were known for being strong fighters and for looking down on other species as weak. "Your human proposal is not good enough," Commander Thexmar said, his voice filled with anger. "The WarHFY Empire has decided what will happen. You will give us the planets we want, or there will be trouble." Kim Mina kept her face calm and peaceful. She had been a diplomat for 15 years and had learned to stay quiet when aliens tried to scare her. "I understand your position, Commander, but Earth cannot agree to give up our colonies in the Kepler system. Those planets belong to humans under the galactic laws that everyone signed." The room had other alien visitors watching the meeting. There were representatives from 6 different species, all sitting at smaller tables around the edges of the room. They came from places like the Centauri Republic and the Vegan Trade Union. Everyone knew this meeting was important for keeping peace in this part of space. Commander Thexmar's yellow eyes became thin slits. His lips pulled back to show all his sharp teeth. "You do not understand, human. Your kind are nothing special. You are soft and weak, like small animals that bigger animals eat. You should not even exist in our galaxy." The other aliens in the room became very quiet. Some of them moved nervously in their chairs. They all knew that what the commander was saying was very dangerous. In galactic law, being mean to a diplomat was almost the same as starting a war. Kim Mina did not move or change her expression. She had heard worse things from other aliens before, but she also knew that the commander's words were being recorded by cameras and sent to other places in the galaxy. "I think there might be some confusion here," she said in a steady voice. "Perhaps we should take a break and continue this meeting tomorrow, when everyone has had time to think." But Commander Thexmar was getting more angry. He stood up from his chair, making himself look even bigger and more scary. His 4 arms spread wide, and his claws made scratching sounds on the metal table. "There is no confusion, soft human," he said, his voice getting louder. "Maybe something bad should happen to you right here, right now. Maybe if your government hears that their pretty diplomat got hurt, they will be smarter about what they decide." The threat hung in the air like poison. Every alien in the room understood what had just happened. The WarHFY commander had just threatened to hurt or kill a diplomatic representative. This was one of the worst crimes in galactic law. Kim Mina felt her heart beat faster, but she did not let the fear show on her face. Instead, she reached slowly for the small communication device on the table in front of her. She pressed a red button that would record everything and send it immediately to Earth and to every other government in the galaxy. "Commander Thexmar," she said in a clear, strong voice, "your threat against me has been recorded and will be sent to all appropriate authorities. This diplomatic session is now finished." She stood up from her chair and picked up her papers. Her movements were calm and controlled, even though inside she felt scared and angry. The other aliens watched her with wide eyes as she walked toward the door. "You cannot just leave," the commander shouted behind her. "The WarHFY Empire is not finished talking." Kim Mina stopped at the door and turned back to look at him. "The WarHFY Empire made their position very clear, Commander. So did I. Earth will respond appropriately." As she walked out of the room, her footsteps echoing in the hallway, none of the aliens left behind could have guessed what they had just seen. They thought they had watched a weak human diplomat run away from a strong WarHFY warrior. They were wrong. They had just witnessed the moment when one of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful empires had signed their own death sentence. The threat against Kim Mina would travel faster than light to Earth, where humans who had survived ice ages, plagues and world wars would decide how to respond. The WarHFY thought humans were prey animals. They were about to learn that the most dangerous predators are the ones that have learned to hide their claws. The message from Ambassador Kim Mina reached Earth in less than 6 hours. It traveled through the quantum communication network that connected all human colonies across the galaxy. The recorded threat from Commander Thexmar was played in government buildings on dozens of worlds, and each time it was heard, the reaction was the same: cold, deadly anger. In the underground command center beneath Seoul, the capital city of Earth, red lights flashed on every wall. This meant that the highest level of emergency had been declared. The room was huge and round, with screens showing star maps and ship locations all around the curved walls. In the center sat a large table where the most important military leaders of humanity gathered. Admiral Park Jun-ho was a man of 60 years with grey hair and scars on his face from old battles. He had fought in the wars when humans first left Earth and tried to make homes on other planets. His eyes were hard and cold as he watched the recording of the WarHFY threat for the third time. "Play it again," he said to his assistant lieutenant, Han Suji. She was a young woman with short black hair who worked with computers and communication systems. The recording played once more. Commander Thexmar's rough voice filled the room as he called humans soft and weak, and then made his threat against Ambassador Kim. When it finished, the room was completely quiet. Defense Minister Lee Hana sat at the table wearing a dark blue uniform covered with medals. She was a small woman, but everyone knew she was one of the smartest military minds in human space. "Admiral Park, what are our options?" Admiral Park stood up and walked to the center of the room. He pressed buttons on a control panel, and the wall screens changed to show something that would have shocked any alien who saw it. The screens showed the real truth about human space, not just the peaceful colonies and trade ships that other species could see, but the hidden military power that humans had been building for 200 years. The WarHFY think they know. "What humans are," Admiral Park said in a quiet voice that somehow felt more dangerous than shouting. "They see our merchant ships carrying food and supplies. They see our exploration vessels looking for new planets. They see our small defense fleets protecting our colonies." He pressed another button, and the screens showed hidden shipyards built inside empty asteroids. Huge factories were making weapons in places that looked like simple mining operations. Thousands of military ships were hidden in empty space, waiting for orders. "What they do not see is what we really are," the Admiral continued. "They do not know that every human cargo ship can become a warship in minutes. They do not know that our mining stations are actually weapon platforms. They do not know that we have been preparing for this day since we first left Earth." General Choi Taemin was a big man with a deep voice who commanded the human army forces. "Sir, are we really going to war over words?" Admiral Park turned to look at him with eyes that seemed to burn with cold fire. "General, they did not just say words. They threatened to kill one of our people while she was doing her job as a diplomat. In human history we have a saying, you can attack our ships, you can attack our planets, but if you threaten our people, we will end you." The room's main communication system began to beep with incoming messages. Reports were coming in from all over human space. Fleet commanders were asking for orders. Colony governors wanted to know if they should prepare for war. Ship captains were requesting permission to reveal their hidden weapons. Defense Minister Lee looked at the messages flowing across her screen. "Admiral, if we do this, there is no going back. The galaxy will see what we really are." "Good, Admiral," Park replied. "It is time they learned the truth about humans. We tried to be peaceful, we tried to be friendly. We offered trade and cooperation to everyone we met. The WarHFY have chosen to see our kindness as weakness." He walked back to the control panel and placed his hand on a red button that had never been pressed before. This button would activate Protocol 7, the complete mobilization of humanity's secret military power. "Send a message to the WarHFY." "High Command," he ordered Lieutenant Han. "Tell them they have 72 hours to apologize for the threat against Ambassador Kim and to surrender Commander Thexmar for trial under galactic law." "And if they refuse, sir?" the lieutenant asked. Admiral Park's face showed no emotion, but his voice carried the weight of a species that had survived everything their home planet could throw at them. "Then we remind the galaxy why Earth's children lived when their own world tried to kill them for millions of years." He pressed the red button. Across human space, everything changed in an instant. Ships that had been hauling cargo suddenly revealed hidden weapons. Mining stations powered up engines that could move them anywhere in the galaxy. Peaceful research outposts began broadcasting military signals. The sleeping giant of human military might was waking up, and it was angry. The WarHFY had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were threatening a weak prey species. Instead, they had just declared war on the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Predators who had learned to wear the mask of civilization. The response from the WarHFY High Command came exactly 72 hours later. Instead of an apology, it was a declaration of war. 300 WarHFY warships appeared at the edge of human space, like a dark cloud of metal and death. Each ship was huge, covered in weapons, and filled with thousands of WarHFY warriors, ready to fight. Supreme Commander WarHFY led the fleet from his flagship, a massive ship called Death's Claw. He was even bigger than Commander Thexmar, with scars covering his green scales and golden teeth that showed when he smiled. He had fought in 50 battles and had never lost a single one. "Pathetic humans," he said to his bridge crew as they looked at the star maps. "We will crush their weak colonies and show the galaxy that the WarHFY are still the masters of this space. These soft mammals will learn what happens when they refuse our demands." The first target was a human mining operation in the asteroid, belt near a planet called Ceres 7. The WarHFY ships moved toward it in perfect formation, their weapons charging up and ready to destroy everything they found. To them, it looked like an easy target, just some mining ships and a few small buildings on the asteroids. But Captain Song Minho was waiting for them. He commanded what looked like an ordinary cargo ship called Peaceful Trader. The ship was old and painted white with rust spots, just like thousands of other human merchant vessels. The WarHFY scanners showed it was carrying nothing but mining equipment and food supplies. They were wrong. "All mining vessels, this is Captain Song," he said into his communication system. "The guests have arrived. Time to show them what human hospitality really looks like." As the WarHFY fleet moved closer, something impossible began to happen. The asteroids themselves started to move. What the aliens thought were just floating rocks were actually equipped with hidden engines and mass drivers, machines that could throw objects at incredible speeds. The asteroid field became a weapon. Chunks of rock and metal began flying toward the WarHFY ships at speeds that could punch holes through their armor. The aliens tried to dodge, but there were too many projectiles coming from too many directions. "Impossible!" shouted Supreme Commander WarHFY as his ship shook from impacts. "How are they controlling the asteroids?" The answer came as Captain Song's ship began to change. The rusted outer hull split open like a flower blooming, revealing weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Other cargo ships throughout the asteroid field did the same thing. What had looked like a small mining operation was actually a hidden military base. "Mining Ship 7 to all units," came a woman's voice over the radio. "Deploy the swarm." Thousands of small objects shot out from the human ships. They looked like metal insects, each one about the size of a person's hand. These were AI-controlled drones, artificial intelligence machines that could think and learn. As they fought, the WarHFY had never seen anything like them. The little drones moved in patterns that seemed random, but were actually perfectly coordinated. They attached themselves to WarHFY ships and began cutting through the armor with laser beams. When the aliens shot at them, the drones learned from each attack and became harder to hit. "Their tactics make no sense," said Commander Grickstar from another WarHFY ship. "How do we fight an enemy that does not follow the rules of war?" That was exactly the problem. The WarHFY had fought many species over the centuries, but they all fought in similar ways. Big ships shooting at each other in straight lines. Humans fought differently. They used everything around them as a weapon. They turned empty space into a battlefield where anything could be dangerous. Captain Song watched from his bridge as WarHFY ships tried to retreat, but it was too late. The asteroid field had become a trap, and the aliens were caught in the middle of it. Human ships that had been hiding behind rocks suddenly appeared, their weapons firing bright beams of energy. "Target their command ship," Song ordered his weapons. Officer Lieutenant Park Sumin. She was a young woman who had trained for this moment her entire life. "Firing main cannon," she replied, pressing buttons on her control panel. A beam of pure energy shot across space and hit the Vorthak flagship. The huge ship's shields flashed and then disappeared. More beams followed, cutting through the alien, armor like it was made of paper. Supreme Commander Vorthak's last message was filled with fear and confusion. "How did prey animals become such efficient killers?" he asked just before his ship exploded in a ball of fire. The battle was over in 6 hours. All 300 Vorthak ships were destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Not a single human had died. The mining operation at Series 7 had revealed itself to be one of humanity's hidden military bases, and it had just won the first major battle of the war. News of the victory spread quickly through human space and then to other alien civilizations. The species that everyone thought were peaceful traders and explorers had just destroyed one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy without breaking a sweat. The galaxy was beginning to understand a terrible truth. Humans were not the prey, animals that the Vorthak thought they were. They were something much more dangerous, predators who had learned to hide their claws until the moment they needed to use them. And they had only just begun to fight. After the destruction of their great fleet, the Vorthak leaders finally understood they had made a terrible mistake. From their capital world of Throk Prime, they sent desperate messages to Earth asking for peace talks. The messages came every few hours, each one more frightened than the last. "We wish to discuss terms," said one message from High Commander Zarvok. "The Vorthak Empire recognizes that misunderstandings have occurred. We are willing to negotiate." The human response came from Admiral Park Junho himself. His face appeared on screens across Vorthak space, and his words were cold as ice in the emptiness between stars. "The time for negotiation ended when your people threatened Ambassador Kim," he said. "You had your chance to apologize. You chose war instead. Now you will face the consequences." What happened next was not really a war. Wars are fought between two sides that both have a chance to win. This was something different. This was a hunt, and the Vorthak were the prey. Human forces began appearing everywhere in Vorthak space. They did not attack cities where families lived or farms where food was grown. Instead, they went after military bases, government buildings, and the factories that made weapons and ships. Each attack was planned perfectly, and each target was destroyed completely. On the planet Vorth Secondary, Major Kim Ji-seok led a team of 12 human soldiers into the most protected military command center in the Vorthak Empire. The building was underground, surrounded by energy shields and guarded by 1,000 alien warriors. The humans walked through all of it like it was not even there. Kim Ji-seok and his team wore special armor that let them breathe the poisonous air of the alien world. Computer chips in their brains helped them talk to each other without making any sound. Their bodies had been changed with technology that made them stronger and faster than normal humans. "Remember the mission," Kim Ji-seok whispered to his soldiers, as they moved through the dark tunnels under the command center. "We are not here to kill everyone. We are here to remove their ability to hurt humans. Stay focused." The Vorthak guards never saw them coming. Human technology was 200 years ahead of what the aliens had. The soldiers moved like ghosts through the building, their weapons making no sound as they disabled security systems and opened locked doors. In 30 minutes, they had taken control of the entire base. The Vorthak commanders inside found themselves prisoners in their own headquarters, watching helplessly as humans downloaded all their military secrets and destroyed their communication equipment. Similar operations were happening on 50 different worlds at the same time. Human special forces teams appeared inside Vorthak bases that were supposed to be impossible to reach. Government buildings that had stood for centuries were reduced to smoking ruins. The great Vorthak war machine, built over hundreds of years, was being taken apart piece by piece. Colonel Yoon Sora commanded the human fleet that attacked the main Vorthak shipyard at Kethmore Station. The space station was enormous, bigger than most cities, and it had been building warships for the Vorthak Empire for over 200 years. "All ships, this is Colonel Yoon," she said from the bridge of her cruiser. "Earth's vengeance. Target Only military and industrial sections. Civilian areas are off limits. We are not monsters like they thought we were. The attack was beautiful in its precision. Human ships moved like dancers, each one knowing exactly where to shoot and when. The station's weapons tried to fight back, but human technology made their defenses useless. Laser beams that should have destroyed human ships were absorbed by energy shields. Missiles that should have exploded on target were confused by electronic signals and flew harmlessly into empty space. In 2 hours, the greatest shipyard in WarHFY space was destroyed. The civilian areas were untouched, but every factory, every weapon, every half-built warship was gone. Thousands of WarHFY workers watched from the safe areas as their empire's military power died before their eyes. The efficiency was terrifying. Other alien civilizations watched the destruction through their spy networks and began to understand something important. Human diplomatic rules were not signs of weakness. They were acts of mercy from a species that could destroy entire civilizations if they chose to. The Pleiadian Trade Council sent a message to their own military commanders. Under no circumstances are our people to threaten human diplomats. What we are seeing is not war. It is extermination being carried out by experts. The Centauri Republic recalled all their ships from areas near human space. Their president gave a speech saying, "We have always respected human diplomatic protocols. Now we understand why they were so important to them." On Throk Prime, the WarHFY High Command met in an emergency session. Half of their military bases were gone. Their shipyards were destroyed. Their fleets were scattered and running for their lives. High Commander Zarvok looked at the reports with growing horror. "How is this possible?" he asked his advisors. "They seemed so peaceful. Their ships looked so simple. Where did this power come from?" His intelligence chief, a scarred old warrior named Krek-Thul, had spent days studying human tactics. "Sir, I think we misunderstood what we were looking at. Their merchant ships were not just merchants. Their mining operations were not just mining. Everything they built had two purposes." The truth was becoming clear. For 200 years, while other species had been fighting each other, humans had been preparing. Every colony ship was also a warship. Every trading post was also a military base. Every peaceful explorer was also a soldier. The galaxy was learning that the most dangerous predators are the ones that look harmless until you threaten what they love. 3 weeks after the systematic destruction of their military forces, the remaining WarHFY leaders gathered in a secret bunker deep beneath the surface of their home world. High Commander Zarvok looked around the room at what was left of the once mighty WarHFY Empire. Half of his commanders were dead, and the other half were hiding like frightened animals. "We have one last weapon," he said to the desperate group. Around the metal table, the Crimson Death virus. It was created 50 years ago as our final option if we were ever truly defeated. The other WarHFY leaders looked at him with fear in their yellow eyes. They all knew about the Crimson Death. It was a biological weapon so terrible that they had sworn never to use it. The virus could kill any warm-blooded species within days, and it spread faster than fire through dry grass. "Sir," said Commander Nexmore, "if we release that weapon, it will kill billions of innocent humans. Their children, their families, everyone." "Good," Zarvok replied with cold anger. "If our empire must die, then their species will die with us. Send the message to the humans. Tell them we will release the Crimson Death on all their colonies, unless they stop their attacks immediately." The message was sent through what remained of the WarHFY communication network. It traveled across space to human listening posts, where it was quickly decoded and sent to Earth. Lieutenant Commander Han Suji was working the night shift at the Human Intelligence Center on Mars when the message arrived. She was a young woman with tired eyes who had been monitoring WarHFY communications for weeks. When she read the decoded message, her face went pale with horror. "Sir," she called to her commander, "we have a priority alert. The WarHFY are threatening biological warfare against civilian populations." Within minutes, the message was being read by Admiral Park Junho in his command center beneath Seoul. The Admiral's face showed no emotion as he read the words, but something cold and final entered his eyes. He had hoped it would not come to this, but the WarHFY had made their choice. "Authorization code Omega-7, he said into his communication system. "Activate the Prometheus protocol. Deep in the research facilities of Titan Station, orbiting. Around Saturn, Dr. Bae Hyunwoo received the authorization with shaking hands. He was a small man with grey hair who had spent his entire life studying alien biology. He had hoped he would never have to use what he had created. The Prometheus virus was humanity's most terrible secret. Unlike the Vorthak weapon that killed quickly, this virus was designed to be more cruel. It would not kill the Vorthak, but it would make it impossible for them to have children. Their entire species would slowly die out over the next 50 years, growing old and lonely until the last Vorthak died alone. "Dr. Bae," came Admiral Park's voice through the communication system, "you have your orders. Deploy the virus." Dr. Bae looked at the small container that held the doom of an entire species. "Sir, once this is released, there will be no way to stop it. Every Vorthak in the galaxy will be affected." "I understand, Doctor. They chose to threaten our children. Now they will watch their own species end forever." The virus was loaded into small delivery devices that looked like pieces of space debris. These were sent to Vorthak worlds through secret human transport ships. The devices broke apart in the atmosphere and released the virus into the air and water of dozens of planets. The Vorthak never knew what hit them. Within days, the virus had spread through their population. It did not make them sick or hurt them in any way. They continued to live their normal lives, work their jobs, and fight what remained of the war, but when they tried to have children, nothing happened. Vorthak females could not become pregnant. The virus had quietly changed their DNA in a way that made reproduction impossible. It took weeks for Vorthak scientists to discover what had happened. When they finally understood, the panic was complete. High Commander Zavok read the reports with growing horror. "How long?" he asked his chief scientist. 50 years, sir, maybe 60 if we are lucky. Then there will be no more Vorthak anywhere in the galaxy." The war ended immediately. The remaining Vorthak military forces surrendered rather than continue, fighting a species that could make them extinct with such cold efficiency. Their threats to use biological weapons were forgotten as they faced the reality of their own extinction. 6 months later, Ambassador Kim Mina stood before the Galactic Council in the Great Assembly Hall on Neutral Station. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the curved rows of seats, all of them staring at the small human woman who had started it all. "We offered you peace," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "We offered trade, friendship, and cooperation. The Vorthak chose to threaten one of our own instead." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of alien representatives who suddenly seemed very small and afraid. "Let this be a lesson to all who would mistake human compassion for weakness. We are not your prey animals. We are the species that survived when our own world tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned to be civilized, but we never forgot how to be deadly." The chamber remained silent as her words sank in. Every species represented there understood the message. Humanity had revealed itself to be the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, and they had done it without anger or hatred. They had simply removed a threat with terrifying efficiency. The age of underestimating humans was over.